Welcome to the very first episode of Businesses Building Bridges. And I am so excited to be here. How about you, Shara?
I am overly thrilled.
So today, this is a podcast about helping businesses help each other. We're going to be sharing stories, tips, real talk, and how we can grow stronger together.
Agree. This episode will definitely be about getting to know us as individuals more and diving into some things that people probably have no idea about us. And
we don't even have about each other yet.
That is true. And
yes.
As Diane says, unpeeling the layers.
So what we want to talk about first is where we've come from and how did we end up here. So why don't you start us off with that?
Sure. So I've lived in Palm Coast since I'm 15. So I'm going to tell my age. That's 1995. I've been here in Palm Coast and moved down with my mother after my parents' divorce. And we were going to move to Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
And that was clearly not the place that I was supposed to be. So the real estate agent told my mother about Palm Coast. And she took a ride, found a canal home, and rented it and fell in love. And
Awesome.
I've been here ever since. Now, one of the other things is that my father was a retired police officer from New York. And at that time, they were sending newsletters for retired police officers back to the tri-state area. And Palm Coast wasn't even on the map. And they heard about it. And here we are.
You know, it's interesting you say that because on the map, in the tri-state areas where my brother found advertisements for Palm Coast. This was 30 years ago, back in 1987, 89-ish. And he and his wife saw that, came down here, going to Disney. And I think they took a little side trip to Palm Coast and found this area. They bought a house, and it turned our family upside down. I was born in New Jersey. And he was the first to venture away from the state. So I was born up in New Jersey, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, not far from Newark.
Not at all.
At age 3, we moved down to Monmouth County, which is Asbury Park. Everybody knows it's Bruce Springsteen area. And that's where I grew up for 30 years there. And when Dan and my husband and I got married, we moved to Georgia. And we settled just about 35 miles north of Atlanta, and we raised our 3 girls there. So after 30 years there, we're kind of doing things in 30-year slices. It was time to retire. So, and there'll be more about that, I'm sure, later on. But my husband and I said, you know, it's time. We looked at 20 different places before we settled on Palm Coast, even though my family was already here. That became the logical place because we had an anchor here. And we wanted to be able to also be close to family, walk a lasagna across the street instead of, around the corner. So we ended up settling right across the street from my younger brother.
Very cool.
So we both have businesses. So what is your business?
So I own a business called Sift and Sort. It is a downsizing and organizing company.
And so how long have you been in business?
January coming will be 1 year.
Awesome.
Yes. So still fresh in the meat pie.
Now, have you always had a business, or is this a new business?
This is my first
entrepreneur.
This is my first entrepreneur road.
How's it feel?
It's confusing.
Okay.
To be honest, because, I've always worked for someone, corporations and small businesses, and having this on my own is interesting because I am creative and I'm not into numbers. So trying to find that balance has been my issue.
Yes, I raised my hand to that too. Unlike you, I've been in business here and there, dabbling in things pretty much all my working years, especially after I got married. I had kind of the freedom to homeschool the kids, think about creative things. And in 2009, I opened a business with corporate gifts. It was called Gratitude Goodies, and it lasted for 10 years. 10 years, and we did think about wine country gift baskets. That's the kind of thing that we did. We have eventually ended up pumping out close to 200 gifts for the casinos that were near up in Murphy, North Carolina, and Cherokee, North Carolina. You may know of some of them or have been there, but we sold it in 2019, just before COVID hit. And what a blessing that was to not have that kind of inventory and 1,500 square feet of space to deal with. But the business is still alive today.
Very cool.
Presently, I have Boney Booty's Beach Rentals, and my husband and I have a woodworking business called Tree Trends. And as if that isn't enough, we want to do the podcast too. I love podcasts. This is my third one.
This is my first, so this will be an interesting journey for me as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. So what the organizing skills that you have?
So this all kind of started, I have managed a local women's boutique for the last 15 years, and realizing that inventory and organization is probably key when it comes to a business, as I'm sure you well know, of keeping inventory and being able to locate the items you need at that very moment and instant when it needs to be replenished, or someone wants multiples of the same item. That's kind of where I said, I am good at this, and trying to fit every little nook and cranny to get the most value for space is where I realized this is something that is needed, not only for businesses, but I think for personal lives as well.
I remember counting every little Hershey Kiss that went into a basket. And I know my business manager was OCD about the books, but I needed her to sort of drive that train and keep me organized, because I was the one who was out doing the networking and dreaming of the next thing. So
cool. So why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this?
The biggest question. So clearly in Palm Coast, it's been a challenge. And I think that's where the networking groups have really taken over the scene. One keeps just stemming off from the next. And we thought, let's try something different and make it more personal instead of a larger scale where you only get your 30 to 45 seconds of fame, and then having to make that time to schedule one-to-ones, and sometimes maybe meet with people that you are forced to meet with and don't necessarily would choose on your own to ever speak with this person, but you definitely tend to learn about people. And I think that this is a much more intimate setting where we can really dive into people's businesses and how they have helped create bridges between each business.
That's exactly what, I was going to talk about the bridges part, because we want to get a guest in here and talk about how that bridge is formed between one business entity and another. And our first guest is going to be Alan, who doesn't know that yet, but
welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. But he is going to be our first bridge, which is super important for this platform. And that will help us to create longer bridges, bigger bridges to other areas around not only Florida, but abroad.
Absolutely.
Northeast.
The whole nation.
Yeah. Our plan, we have big plans.
We have big plans.
Yeah. So what are our plans?
Well, we're going to start small. Because as Diane also has her little expression, big on smalls, which we'll get into as well. But definitely starting small, I think, is key, where it's just natural, and connecting all these bridges with other businesses locally, and then hopefully sharing this with other communities so that they can help build those bridges as well through businesses.
Do we want to share what we have in mind?
Oh, no, I think we should have them hold on to their seats.
Yes. So we do have big plans.
We sure do.
So we're not going to release those yet, but it'll be inviting others down the road to
join us.
That's what I was going to say.
Thank you.
Join us.
Oh, you're welcome.
So we're going to build bridges together.
Yes.
So we have a beautiful logo. How did we end up choosing that?
Well, first, I think it was just discussing the whole name of this, which is the Building Bridges Through Businesses. And that obviously came up with the B3. And then the bridge with the 2 microphones is clearly what started this whole thing.
Yes.
And it was a journey to get to this. And I love talking about logos because I feel like it really brings in creativity and why you're doing this. You know, just going on to Canva and finding a logo and throwing your name in there is pretty generic.
Yeah.
And I think that successful businesses really do work on their logo and have it have meaning behind it instead of just throwing it out there with your initials. But definitely the circle behind this whole thing is there's clearly no beginning and there's no end because it already has begun.
That was the hardest part.
That was the hardest part. We was working with squares and, you know, but this logo, I think really both of us were really happy once we finalized this. And that big ring around us is just the circle of life.
Yeah, and I showed you the very first podcast that I had done.
Yes.
And it had those mics on there, similar to what we're talking with now. And you grabbed that immediately and put it into the Bridges logo, which was kind of cool.
Very cool.
I immediately loved it.
Yes.
And we selected our colors based on our joint loves of colors. And the gold represents just high class.
Absolutely. It's all royalty colors.
Yes, royalty and infinity we have there in the circle. So what else do we need to discuss in our first episode?
Well, I think just creating these relationships with people on an intimate level and being able to connect what we have here in Flagler County, because it has been a tremendous challenge to figure out how to do that. This is, I think, I don't know if it still is one of the fastest growing communities. There is a lot of building still going on, and I know that's happening in all communities, but we will have an influx of new residents. And how do we get this out there, and what is the best advertising way, and what is innovative? And I think that's what landed us here.
Yes, one of the things that is curious to me in this area especially is it's very small business oriented.
Very.
Where I came from in Atlanta, we had a mix at the table of, banking companies, huge high-rise companies. I would deliver to those places all the way down to perhaps a blue-collar worker or someone who just started business. And we're going to be talking mostly to probably small business owners here.
And what's interesting is small business, they say, is 500 employees or less.
Interesting. Very interesting. That's not the case here.
No. So I don't even know, if we'd call it small business, because it is just an entrepreneurial world.
Right.
Where it is just a 1, 2, 3 man max show. But I do believe that after COVID, that really put a lot of the big corporations kind of in a position where they really didn't know how to move forward. Of course, people working from home.
Right.
And a lot of those people just realizing, what can I do in this new age? And, even making videos on TikTok clearly is, a entrepreneurship.
It's not only what can I do because I'm desperate to support my family, but it's what can I do now that I have this post-COVID freedom that they have tasted, and they want to either for more quality time with their family, more bandwidth to think about what creative things they want to get into, or maybe I should do that thing that they never did before.
Yes.
So it's created new opportunities. And is it safe to say that most people don't know how to do a business?
Absolutely.
Especially a small business where it really is different from a corporate entity.
And I also think people that are in business still don't know what they're doing and somehow just get by.
Right.
Which is also something I'm sure we'll get into later on in the next couple episodes.
We will definitely get into that.
Yes.
So what else do we have planned? We would love to get into this and help share this podcast with others, obviously, right? We have a few things that buy me a coffee. We're going to be talking about that.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about all kinds of different ways that we can build bridges together. and we talked about, well, what is your kind of bridge? What do
Well,
you
yes.
see in?
I would love to discuss this
Yes,
part.
this is
Because when Diane first approached me and she says, how about this bridge building? And she asked me what kind of bridge I was. And I was confused because I said, I don't really understand the question. Because if you ask somebody what kind of bridge they are, I think they would relate it to whatever bridge that they grew up around. How do you compare to other bridges? Until we got through the conversation and we said, well, you got one end of a bridge and then you have another end of a bridge. And then when they connect, you have a full bridge. And how do you get from point A to point B?
interesting.
So it was interesting, the first topic of conversation when she says what kind of bridge and, a strong one that goes over water, how high is it, how many layers does it have, versus how do you connect one business to the next one that can flow through seamlessly.
You were kind of focused on the maybe the emotional point of the bridge, and I was very literal in thinking or saying. I remember the first bridge that came to my mind is a railroad bridge because it's strong, it goes both ways, it has destinations all along its path, and it's not always pretty to cross that kind of bridge, but they're rock steady, and they get those heavy pieces of equipment across it daily, many times daily.
Interesting.
So
to get two different perspectives, I think, is just so cool from two completely different.
Right. We hardly really know each other. So we're going to get to know each other really well.
Oh, yes, we will.
Podcast,
oh, yes, absolutely. And I'm excited about that.
So where do we go from here?
Where do we go? Well, I guess I could just talk about my experience here in Palm Coast, growing up here. I was 15. I did go to FPC and graduated there. And then realized, well, what? I was working in the restaurant industry, and I realized that was not what I wanted to be doing for the rest of my life. I knew that there was more out there. And over the last decade, I'd say I've really, really tried to get out of here. I'd say 90%.
What do you mean? Like literally move?
Literally just get out of Palm Coast, not to know exactly where I'd go. But there was just something that I just never felt like it was home. But 90% of the people that I knew growing up here would always leave, and then they'd always come back.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I don't know what the reasons are, but for some reason, I feel like God is saying, no, you need to stay in Palm Coast. And there's been too many instances where that has been very evident in my life that I do think, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm selling the house. That's it. Call me a realtor. I don't care which one. I don't care if I know them or don't. And I'm still here. So there's a purpose, and I'm going to find that purpose and just roll with it.
You've been quite busy doing purposeful things.
I have.
Yes.
I have. And I guess we can definitely get into those nonprofit efforts that we are both involved in.
Extremely busy.
Extremely busy.
So let me dive a little deeper into my two businesses, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
With our listening audience. As I mentioned, we moved here in 2021, went to Jacksonville to stay with our daughter for about 11 months while we selected and built the house here. That whole plan was designed to work with my older brother, Brian, to build the business. He already had the idea for the beach chair rentals, and I said, that's great. I'm not going to schlep the chairs, but I will do the marketing, go to the networking group, and do all the back office stuff. He said, great. All I want to do is schlep the chairs. I said, fine, that's great. So I moved here, and in Jacksonville, I discovered that he was ill. So with cancer, and that time was extremely abbreviated. I would be in Jacksonville, come down here to network, go visit him at rehab, take him to the hospital, do things that, you needed to do with people who were in that situation, and bring them back home. And, the first year was great. The second year was a lot of that care for him. And then he died in March of 2023. and was left with the business that I really didn't know the people here. I knew of people, but not in a deeper level like I do now. And I was like, bro, what do you want me to do with this now? But, sitting across from the columbarium there and just thinking about how hard we worked to get it to that point, I said, you know what, dude, I'm going to rock this thing. Not really having a full heart in it at that point, because you're not only grieving for the loss of your business partner and your family member, but that whole thing wrapped up was like, I just don't know what to do with it. And so I just muddled along the first year trying to get my feet under me, not only as a new business, but also as,
in a new area.
And newly grieving for the loss of a family member. And I was at a First Friday event one time, and this gentleman came up to me from behind, and I remember thinking, God, what am I going to do with this thing? I don't know what to do. And he came up from behind me, and it was the owner of the flip-flop shop, and that's Rex. And we had enough time for Brian to meet Rex and give his blessing to him on helping me schlep the chair. So the thing I didn't want to do was schlep the chairs, and Diane ended up schlepping the chairs with her husband and whoever else would be there to help. And then it became Rex who was schlepped the chairs, and me. Whatever the business needed is what we did. So that was the beginning of Boney Booty's Beach Rentals, and it was named that way because my brother Brian had no butt.
I always wondered what that Boney Booty was about.
I said, turn around, you have no butt there. His pants would fall down if he raised his hands up.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
very cute.
Because he was ill, and losing weight and all that kind of stuff. I said, do we really go there? Do we really call it Boney as kind of a pirate thing? Boney Booties is, pirate-ish? Well, we did. We went there. Boney Booty's Beach Rentals was born, and, we had all that stuff. So the rest is history. And we've had the best season this past 2025 we've ever had.
But you have definitely made a mark in Palm Coast.
Ahoy, mateys.
Ahoy.
Yes.
Everyone knows Boney Booty as Ahoy.
Ahoy, mateys is what I always say when I stand up. And that is part of the branding, and it's deliberate. The colors are deliberate. The pirate theme is deliberate. All of it is deliberate to gain brand awareness.
And you have done some job doing that, I must say.
That.
And I met Diane, I think it's almost 3 years ago now.
It's about the same, yeah.
Yes.
I wonder, who is that girl? You wonder, who are these people? How do they fit into my life? Do they fit into my life? And can we be acquaintances, friends, or, here we are. Podcast partners. So awesome.
It is. And that's, I think, what's amazing sometimes about relationships and possibly judgment, because that's what we do as humans. And not full force, but you just never know someone's story and someone's life and how you connect and what it is that you have in common that you can help each other grow.
I don't think it was till March of this past year, or maybe last fall, that you showed up at my house at a Pampered Chef party.
Yes, I did.
And I remember just laughing the whole time over silly things.
It was. It's very, I saw a different side of you that day.
Well, I would hope so. It was in my home, and I was just relaxed and having fun.
Yes, absolutely. It was.
I don't know what you thought of me before that. It could be the gray hair that I let go since Georgia. I was like, I am not gonna get colors anymore and spend that kind of money approaching semi-retirement.
Well, I will get into this, and I know we said we wouldn't get too much into this, but when I was networking, I was running for our city council.
Yes, I remember that.
And that could have been an approach where some people might be intimidated by, not knowing that I don't have any political background whatsoever. And it wasn't about politics. It was trying to make a difference. And Thankfully,
My hat's off to you because
Thank you.
that politics is not something that I enjoy talking about or being in.
no, it is. It was an amazing learning experience. I made amazing connections, and I feel like now I have the ability to educate others about just a little bit about politics, especially local politics. But
Right.
Alan definitely knows way more than me, and I actually gained a lot of respect for Alan during this last run, getting to know him better as a person, regardless of what was being said or done, because politics are dirty. And one of the gentlemen that was also running said to me, "If they're not talking about you, you're doing something wrong."
Well, that warms my heart.
Yes, I know. It's mine too. I'm starting to sweat just the thought of it.
Oh my gosh. I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons you said it's dirty. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest reasons that I tend to go the other way.
Yes, yes.
And the hopelessness I feel about getting anything done.
Yeah, it was a challenge, and it definitely opened my eyes not only to politics, but also to business and how campaigns really do work. It's all about money. Unfortunately, it's all about a campaign. It's all about your signs. It's all about mail-outs, not knowing a thing about the person. And I was guilty myself of not, kind of knowing about how to vote or how to research, but going through that myself and what my reason was behind it, running for a nonpartisan position as an independent really definitely solidified how politics work. And I'm so thankful to be able to know that, educate, and use that towards my new entrepreneurship road that I am on.
Yes, this talk just now about political pursuits brings me to one of our last points today. We're going to have business banter. It's not only going to be a guest here. One time a month, we're going to be able to talk this kind of way between each other and maybe dig a little deeper into topics that are related to networking and hopefully not too many political conversations, but things that are of interest to business owners in the community.
I agree 100%.
Well, that's it. That's it, people. This is our
baby.
First real discussion together as businesses building bridges, or B3 as we lovingly want to call it.
Absolutely.
So until next time, let's continue building bridges together.
Thank you, Diane.
All right.